This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. If you're ready to see the rest of the world just as clearly, get your fresh perspective at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIX.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybylo here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. Another Stickball report coming your way here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. And Bob, we'll start with softball because I think
they lost a series.
They have lost a series, and it felt like the end of the world. But Tennessee comes into town. They take 2 of 3. You lose the Friday night game in the 8th inning, extra innings, and then on Sunday jump out to a 3-0 lead and end up 5-run 4th inning was definitely the decider. It's weird to talk about this because it feels like the world is caved in on the softball program, and they're 32-3. They're 9-3 in conference play. They're still top 3 in the country. I guess, kind of where is this thing? Because there are a lot of questions and a lot of young players certainly not performing at the championship level. It's midseason, though, and you're looking at the rest of the year.
Yeah, you go back to last weekend and just some lingering issues, runners in scoring position.
Sure, especially on Friday night, right?
It's got to be more than Cassidy Pickering and Abby Dayton. They did a tremendous job the entire series. You just need Ella Parker to get healthy. Yeah. With it not being an SEC week, I wonder what Patty Gassel's plan of attack with Ella will be throughout this weekend. If there are games this week.
By the way, that's the by the way, should have mentioned that at the top.
Bury the lead.
We do have, as of Thursday, we have an idea of what it's supposed to look like on the softball side of things. Obviously, baseball starting on Thursday night as well, with LSU coming to town, nationally televised. We'll get to baseball here in a second. They did revise the schedule, though. There is a game Tonight.
I have no idea what that crowd is going to look like.
Welcome to Norman, St. Thomas. You got St. Thomas, the O'Connor Invitational. They were stepping out of conference play. Just in terms of schedule, and then we'll kind of work our way into the weekend.
Yeah, you go from, they're supposed to play St. Thomas at 4 o'clock Friday. Now it's been moved up to 7 p.m. Thursday. UCF is still 7 p.m. Friday and 12:30 Saturday. We're all of the belief neither one of those games are probably going to happen.
It is supposed to be torrential rain for basically the next 72 hours here in Norman.
Cold rain.
That's the thing. You could probably deal with a little bit of the spitting rain. We're talking about
40s.
Single-digit wind chills, possibly in the Panhandle, coming into Norman on Saturday evening. It's just not outside weather, folks. It's going to be a very much of a hour-to-hour basis here with softball this weekend. But they are stepping out of conference play this weekend, and the way that things went last weekend against Tennessee.
Not the worst thing in the world.
Not the worst thing in the world, correct? Now, you did get the 13-2 run rule on Tuesday night, go down to UT Arlington. That was expected. It does feel like, though, for maybe everybody that needs a reset, especially at the plate, it is a good thing to bring in some teams that maybe aren't the caliber of the SEC opponent you'll see.
And that's where it's going to be so key about the plan. Because you're going to get hits. You're going to get hits this weekend if you play. That you didn't get against Tennessee.
Sure.
We all know that. But it's your plan of attack, which is what Patty praised Cassidy for time and time again during the postgame Sundays. You can tell what she's looking to do. Between every single pitch, you know what Pickering is trying to get accomplished. And she's doing just that. The way Patty phrased it, trying so hard that everyone is failing. They want to be good so dang bad, so dang quickly, that they're just making these mistakes that ultimately you're failing instead of succeeding, so that's got to change, and this is a weekend. Get the confidence back up.
I feel like Skip Johnson's talked about that with some of his pitchers before. Just stop trying. Just stop trying. I know it's easier said than done. Cassidy Pickering, though, was a highlight offensively. She's on an 11-game hitting streak here over the course of the last 11 games. She's drove in 10 runs during that 11-game hitting streak. And
it's because she walks all the time.
Particularly
it's
at the plate.
Only reason why.
She went 9 for 11 over the course of the last 4 games. A pair of 3 for 3s, had a home run as well. She's been a massive positive in a lineup that is, quote-unquote, struggling.
Yeah, she went, obviously walks don't count as plate appearances, but she went 15 straight times to the plate.
That's incredible.
With a hit or a walk throughout that weekend. That's when you say that's someone who's dialed in, understands exactly what they're trying to do, and doing it at a very high level. I thought Abby Dayton definitely did that as well throughout the course of the weekend. And Now, I mean, that was maybe the first, oh my, this is what it's like for some of those freshmen.
Sure.
I mean, we know Nelly Marinas can bring it. So, Gabby Garcia. But when you're in that type of moment, you get an idea. It's like, okay, Arkansas, Missouri, there are levels to this. And Tennessee, right now, is just a different level. And now they know what that feels like.
Tennessee played well, and it's also kind of funny to look at the numbers and you come out of the weekend. They're still 9-2 against ranked teams. They're 4-2 against the top 10 teams. Obviously had the earlier conference setting with South Carolina when they opened up at Lowe's Field. Pitching-wise, Sam Landry goes 8 innings on Friday night, career high 141 pitches, 8 innings, 5 earned runs, 2 Ks. Maybe the biggest thing to take out of the weekend, though, was the Kirsten Deal performance on Saturday, the game that they did win in a 4-1 victory.
She needed it. The team needed it. Now we'll see where things go from there. It's funny because those first 2 innings were rough.
Sure.
I didn't know if Kirsten was going to make it out of those first couple innings, but she settled down and really hit her stride. Best performance in a long time. We know it's the first complete game that she's thrown throughout the season. So that rested the arms going into Sunday, and Sam Landry tried to take them home. And that Sunday game is so weird. It's just like each team gets 1 inning. You got to decide what you do with your 1 inning. We got 3, they got 5. It's like Pickens, Landry, they were as good as they were advertised for 6 of the innings. They had 1 off inning, and that proved to be the difference.
Cassidy Pickering, again, in that Sunday game, gave them the lead with a bases clearing, bases loaded, 3-run double. And all of a sudden, it was 3-0. It was like
outs.
You felt like the big inning was coming, right?
You felt it was like, okay, you put up a 6 or 7 spot here. You put the seed of doubt. There's no way Sam Landry's going to give up that many runs. And instead, Pickens is able to work her way out of it with just the 3 runs. And then Tennessee, which is something Patty always prides herself on with the Sooners, bouncing back the very next chance.
Sure.
Tennessee does that top of the 4th.
Perfect game through 4 2/3, and that final out in the 5th inning was a problem.
Yeah, the 2-run double that hit chalk, and then the three-run homer that was absolutely crushed. And it was funny is you could almost sense a deflation at Love's Field. Almost like, wow, now what? Like Pickens,
one of the first times they've really been truly punched in the face a couple times and not able to respond here. And that's like not just this season. That's over the last 4 years.
Exactly. That goes back to the first 2 games of Bedlam probably from last year was the last time they really felt that. But then Pickens is someone very confident in the circle, and it grows with every at-bat. And that's where I think Patty's talking about trying too hard. You see how fired up Pickens is, and you want to shut her up. You want to get a hit. You want to get on base. But you deviate from what makes you who you are. You get out of your element, and things didn't work out.
You mentioned it earlier, Bob, but Ella Parker, and we've talked about it. We talked about it last week going into the Tennessee series. Obviously dealing with something in the lower body. How do you forecast, if you had to guess, how they play that this weekend? Because I think you could probably get through the games or a game on Thursday night with the weather. You would be able to get through it without Ella, and maybe you just kind of gamble with that and try to get her ready for the stretch run for the rest of conference play.
I mean, there's no reason to not go about that. She's 2 for 30 in conference play.
Unbelievable. I mean, we were talking about her, a month ago,
600s.
Best hitter in the country.
In the country. Even she didn't have the power numbers, she had everything else. So we're not going to bash her too much, or not at all, actually. So she didn't play Tuesday. And, with this schedule, I would say sit her out. Give Tia Malloy the chance. We saw what she was able to do Tuesday. Get into 3 hits, driving in 3 runs. This is your chance for some of those freshmen to show Patty once again, hey, if it gets into crunch time against Texas, against Florida, you need a pinch runner, you need a pinch hitter, you need someone to come out into the field.
Sure.
I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. So that's what you appreciate about Tuesday with Chaney Helton and Corey Hicks. That was a big night for Hicks to go along with Tia. So we'll see if those certain freshmen, Sydney Barker, do they all get their chances throughout the course of this weekend?
If this weekend is the breath of fresh air for the Oklahoma softball team, they're right back at it next week, and we'll talk about it when we reconvene on the softball side of things. But
a big one.
Big one coming up for Bedlam softball as well next week, and then you head down to Alabama, who is obviously continuing to play well.
And next
it seems.
Wednesday looks to be a beautiful night.
That's cool.
I bet they shattered the single game. I know
Over at Devon Park?
Yep. They got the 9,000 for Texas a couple years ago. They'll figure out a way to get more than 9,000.
That'll be awesome. And it seems like just from not following it every day, but it seems like OSU is starting to play a little bit better here as they kind of get through that doldrum of the first month and a half of the season. So it should be interesting. Baseball does, they're kind of in the same boat. Everybody off of Imhoff and Chautauqua over there on the south side of campus. It's going to be dependent upon the weather. And we'll see. Obviously, Thursday night, I think that we should be good, both softball and baseball.
Absolutely.
Weather's clearing out. It's been raining all morning or all night on Wednesday into Thursday morning. Should be good there. Then it gets a little bit sketchy. And I just don't know what they're going to be able to do here with LSU coming to town. It's a top 10 matchup. First time that they've had a top 10 matchup in, believe it or not, 15 years. And that was a midweek game. It's the first time since
Was it really?
Yeah, it was a midweek game against TCU, I believe. And then the series was a Texas series. Back in 2010 was the last time there was a top 10 matchup. But LSU is one of the best teams in the country. I mean, you think about all of the LSU teams that have been really, really competitive, won national championships, gone to Omaha. This is through the first 30 games, the best start that they've had since 2013, 27-3. The 7-2 mark in conference play is the best start that they've had since 2013 as well. Really, really good offense. And I think that like when you look at Thursday night, for instance, with Kyson Witherspoon, Oklahoma's ace going on the mound. He was the midseason pitcher of the year for D1 baseball as well as perfect game. Also named to their All-American teams. It's a matchup of power versus power. You have Kyson Witherspoon versus literally one of the best offenses in the country. Just look at the numbers. 337 as a team. That's first in the SEC. They lead the SEC with 73 doubles. Third nationally in batting average, 337. The 333 hits as a team is second in the SEC. 456 on base percentage is second in the SEC, third nationally, and 301 runs scored is second in the SEC, fifth nationally. They got their work cut out for them. I told Skip this morning, we had him on the radio program. It's like, I know that the pitching's been really good, but this is a little bit of a different animal, and it's going to be interesting. Coming off their first series loss last weekend down in Tuscaloosa. Got back on the right side of things on Tuesday night in Frisco.
Yep. Is this a measuring stick series?
Oh, yeah.
Or is this just a...
They would never tell you that. They would never say, because it's pitch to pitch, it's game to game type of situation, mentality wise with Skip and that crew, as it always is here since the Skip Johnson era's began. But I do think, this is the best of the best. This is a team that if you want to get to Omaha, if you want to host a regional, if you want to host get into that national discussion to possibly host a super regional, these are the teams that you're going to be playing. This is the kind of the atmosphere of the series that you sign up for when you sign up for the Southeastern Conference. It's going to be fun.
You might not know the answer to this exactly, but because of the elements, because of that, are there certain pitchers you trust more when they don't know what's really going to happen in terms of the schedule?
That's where it's kind of interesting. I mean, I think that as it's been announced, Kyson Witherspoon Thursday, Cade Crossan would pitch Friday, second game. And then it's to be announced on the Saturday game, which is your Sunday starter. That's been Malachi Witherspoon, obviously. The last couple weeks since moving from Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised if, depending on how things go, I think it changes things if they end up having to play a doubleheader on Friday. Do you pitch Gavin Jones and then have Malachi Witherspoon come out of the bullpen? They have options. I think the good thing about the struggles that Cam Johnson has had on the midweek as well as the weekend and just not being able to throw strikes, you have found you can throw a Jaden Barfield into the mix in a high leverage situation. You can throw a Bo Sampson into a high leverage situation like they did on Saturday against Mississippi State. He gets out of a bases loaded jam. Michael Cantilano, another freshman pitcher. He has been excellent out of the bullpen. I don't think it's crazy to think that maybe he could find a home on the midweek. When you get out of this 12-game stretch that they're on with, DBU next week. They had Tech on this past Tuesday. They have Oklahoma State in 2 weeks in the midweek. So they got their work cut out for them, but I think that, and we talked about this on the Unofficial 40 this week as well, through the struggles of what a Cam Johnson or a Jacob Golston experience has been the fact that you've been able to find some pitchers that you can really, I think, rely on out of the bullpen. And obviously, Dylan Crooks has been unbelievable. He's leading the country in saves right now at 9. He's been as dominant as you can get. And Jason Bowden's been up and down. Obviously, walked the guy in the 8th inning on the Friday night game down in Tuscaloosa after Dayton Taki gave him the lead. But outside of that, he's been solid. He's had a good year. Jamie Hitt's been excellent from the left side out of the bullpen. Can't believe that we're saying that.
Still saying it.
It's crazy to say, but he really has been. He's been a guy that they could depend on, Bob. So I'm kind of excited because this is a matchup of some really good arms against a really, really good offense.
Any cause for concern from what you saw against the Tide that you're like, oh no, that might carry over. That might be a sign of things to come.
Might be a little bit worrisome just in terms of defensively. They've made some errors here over the last couple weeks, and they were able to kind of work around it on Tuesday night against Texas Tech. Didn't really come back to bite them. It did come back to bite them on Sunday of the Alabama series. 3 unearned runs in the 5th inning. And all of a sudden, it's 8-1 instead of being 5-1 when you should have been out of the inning. Then all of a sudden, you would have had the lead in the 8th inning again. So I would watch that. I think that the situation behind the plate's really interesting right now with Scott Mudler. He dislocated his shoulder last week against 2 weeks ago against Mississippi State. Obviously hasn't been seen. I asked Skip about him on Thursday, and he was hitting off a tee, doing some light toss throwing on Wednesday, which is kind of weird because you do have that short turnaround from Tuesday to Thursday. So they didn't do a whole lot on Wednesday. Got some guys, some live ABs, which a little bit of a fun note. Taylor Tatum had 3 hits during the live hit session. He hasn't played, obviously, this season. He's doing football as well. But, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because I don't think that you're going to see Scott Mudler this weekend. Maybe you give him a little bit more time and then get him ready to jump back into the SEC, kind of like Ella Parker, even though this is a massive series for baseball. Maybe you'll luck out with the weather and not have to play as many games. I know they want to play them, if that makes sense. But you have that, and then Trey Gamble's situation, and he left the Sunday game. Looked like he re-aggravated the hamstring injury that he had missed some time for. Didn't play on Tuesday night down in Frisco. The flip side of it, I don't know what his status is going to be going into this weekend. I'd be a little bit surprised if he did play. The good news is Deshaun Harris had a 3-hit night on Tuesday night. He was 3 of the 14 hits that they had against Tech. Stranded 12 runners, but you'll live with that. I think that's a good problem to live with. Hasn't been that much of a problem this year to manufacture runs. So I'm excited. This is a big series in Norman. This is a big series for the baseball program just in general. Got Kyson on the mound on Thursday night on an ESPN2 product. So
you're talking about the LSU offense time and time again. Mm-hmm. So are we getting ready for like 12, 10 games, or who made their probably LSU arm that's going to be scary?
That's been like the kind of the interesting thing is you look at LSU, and we went over the numbers. They're off to a fantastic start to the first 30 games of the season. I think the pitching has been a little bit underwhelming just in terms of what you probably would expect from an LSU team that is a top 5, top 7 team, whichever poll you want to use, one of the 70 polls that college baseball uses. But I think they are going to miss Gavin Guidry, a right-handed pitcher. He was on the availability report. I wanted to say status report. Availability report sent out by the SEC going into the series on Wednesday night. So I think you're going to miss him. He'll make his debut next weekend, which is a good news. But they're going to have to score runs. I mean, I think that for Oklahoma, if you want to say that they're going to win 2 or 3 or somehow sweep a series, it's going to be because the offense woke up and gave themselves a chance, and you got enough pitching from a Kyson Witherspoon or whomever, Kate Crossland, Malachi Witherspoon, Gavin Jones, whomever, they'll keep you in games. So should be kind of fun, though. I'm excited because I think there is a little bit of still some unknown with this team at 27-5,
yep.
But so far so good. I mean, I think that you would have obviously taken the winning a series against South Carolina. Beating Mississippi State, you need to win home series, and kind of the same goes into this week with LSU coming to town, and Alabama's just a really good baseball team.
Do you think they would stretch this to Sunday if it needs to be?
So that's the question, and I need to check more into it. Some good reporting on my part, but SEC has a rule. when you start a series, you have 72 hours to complete the series.
So when of the game time Thursday, so
Right.
Sunday night would be.
I guess, but I kind of asked about it earlier this week, and I was told that Sunday's not an option. So I don't know. I don't think that Sunday's an option, and it certainly doesn't look like Saturday's going to be a day to be playing baseball or softball outside. So it kind of leaves Friday. It was kind of hinted to me that maybe you look at a doubleheader on Friday starting around 5 o'clock, 4
Whoa.
o'clock, which would be a late night at Eldell. But at the same time,
Bring out the crazies.
if you can get the series in and get a bunch of college students over in the outfield, maybe it could be a pretty lively atmosphere. It should be on Thursday anyways, as Oklahoma gets underway, which it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they can do this weekend with an extremely good opponent in LSU coming in. So we'll keep an eye on baseball. We'll keep an eye on softball as well. I think probably the best advice would be check Twitter, because that's probably where the announcement's going to be made. Obviously, we will be covering it on SoonerScoop.com, on the message boards all weekend, as we just kind of wait and see how bad this weather's going to be and if there's going to be some openings to get games in. And oh, by the way, if you're going over there, I drove over there earlier today. Medieval Fair Week. And if you've been around Norman, I'm sure you know what comes with that. It's fun. I think.
Love it.
I think. For Bob Przybylo, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We will see you back here next week for another Stickball report on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.